there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen neighbor calls the cops on my band for practicing. After that, update. Am I the jerk for choosing the golden child over my other sister? And after that, customer asked me to count out a bag of live crickets in front of her. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to call the cops on her neighbor. How about I call the FBI instead? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen neighbor calls the cops on my band for practicing. I recently moved with my family to a new rental in an upscale suburb. Our house is the worst one on the street, but we have a really cool wooden barn that we use as a 4-car garage in the back. It's old and not in great condition, but it looks awesome. My mom was in a band in her earlier days, and my brother and I are now in bands that perform locally. We've started practicing in the barn on Sunday afternoons, generally between around 2 and 5 p.m., and we always make sure to stop before 6 p.m. The first time we practiced, someone called the cops on us. It was so frustrating because we weren't doing anything wrong. Luckily, the police arrived and my mom explained the situation. They listened to our music for a while, took a really cool photo with us and their police car, which would make an amazing album cover, and told us we weren't doing anything wrong before leaving. But the following weekend, the same thing happened again. The police arrived and told us that it was a nuisance complaint, and they would follow up with the complainant. They warned us that if they received another complaint, action would be taken. The next day, my mom received a random passive-aggressive note in our mailbox. It threatened that if we didn't stop practicing, more action would be taken. Even though the police had assured my mom that we weren't doing anything wrong, she decided to take some steps to reduce the sound by putting some foam on the barn walls. A week later, my mom received an email from the owner we rent from, along with a copy of a letter from a neighbor complaining about us. It was a big mistake on the neighbor's part because the letter had the neighbor's home and address on it. It turns out that the complainant was the neighbor who backs onto our property. My mom responded by explaining the situation and sending the police photo to the owner. To our surprise, they laughed and thought the whole thing was quite amusing. My mom has asked our neighbors on both sides if the noise bothers them, and both have said that while it can be loud, they quite enjoy it. Both my brother and I are pretty talented, so it's not just trash noise. However, my mom is a little worried about what this neighbor will do next. We hope they can see we're not causing any harm and just trying to follow our passion for music. I have a neighbor who practices his drums inside the house, across the street, on the other side of the block about 5 houses down. So I kind of feel for the neighbors. It's probably loud in their house. I love local bands, but hearing it every Sunday instead of peace and quiet would be horrid. I feel bad for the neighborhood. I think of my 17-year-old trying to cram a few hours of studying in, babies trying to take a nap, folks trying to kick back with a glass of wine, and here goes the band just like clockwork. No thanks. We had neighbors across the street who were frat boys in a family neighborhood. Dad bought the house for them and their friends to live in. They practiced 4 to 5 times a week for 3 to 4 hours at a time. As the mom of a newborn at the time, and now 1-year-old, it was extremely frustrating and exhausting. We talked to them and they just didn't care. So we called the police over and over until the police were annoyed with us and would finally come immediately. Contacted the HOA over and over until they actually did something. We were in the process of starting a civil suit with decibel readings and everything, and then they got enough fines and violations and tickets from the police that they finally stopped. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the neighbor? Please let us know. I despise all noise. Update. Am I the jerk for choosing the golden child over my other sister? I, 26, male, am the older brother of 2 sisters, Maya, who's 19, and Tia, who's 21. Our parents are complete jerks, and Maya was their golden child, and honestly, a complete and utter spoiled jerk. I get that's harsh to say about a kid, but she was. She got special treatment and would always get away with anything. Our parents basically encouraged it, despite basically leaving me to raise my sisters so they could go enjoy themselves. When I was 18, Tia was 13, and Maya was 11, I moved out. I stayed in contact with Tia, though I quickly gave up on trying to connect with Maya, honestly. Our parents and Maya were absolutely horrible to Tia while I was gone. So when she was 18, Tia moved out and has stayed with me. I've made her get some therapy and done my best to be a good brother, and she's managed to be a lot happier since. Though after that, I basically didn't see our parents or Maya. However, last November, Maya randomly reached out to us. Tia just ignored it, but Maya is still my little sister, so I gave her a chance. In the time without us, she had really missed us and realized just how spoilt and cruel she was acting. Apparently, part of how she treated Tia was jealousy of how I was so close to her, but not to Maya, though it obviously didn't justify it. She had felt guilty for a while, but was scared to reach out in case we'd reject her. She felt really sincere and was really apologetic and seemed ashamed. I forgave her and we started talking a lot. I became close to Maya really quickly. We get along great now, and we're actually pretty similar. Unfortunately, Tia refuses to forgive her or even respond. I think she's being a little unfair, but I understand how she feels. From talking, I noticed that Maya seems to be having a hard time at home. She wasn't going to say anything about it, but ended up spilling the beans when I pressed her. Our parents basically turned on her the moment we left. She wasn't the golden child anymore and had to suffer our parents' BS. Honestly, I'm ashamed to admit, but I never considered how our parents would treat her with us gone. But with how horrible our parents are, I wanted to ask her to move in with me. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm the renter. The rental agreement and bills and everything are all under my name. Tia contributes, but since she's still in university and my little sister, it's much less and unofficial. But when I brought up the idea, Tia was serious. She rejected it. I tried to compromise and talk, but it went nowhere. So in the end, I told Tia I'm offering and that she can be civil or I can help her move somewhere else. Maya accepted, coming to stay next week, and Tia is upset and feels I'm choosing the golden child over her. But I'm not. Maya is suffering and I want to help. She's a different person now. I understand Tia hurts and I get her anger, but Maya also needs me right now. Tia is still angry and our friends think it was a jerk move. But Maya is my sister and I don't think it's wrong to help her. I helped Tia back then too. There are a few things I want to clear up. 1. Maya isn't lying about this. I know my parents, and Maya didn't even want to tell me about her issues at home. There's basically no chance it's a lie, and she's tried and tried to talk and apologize to Tia, but Tia just won't let her. I know what she did in the past was horrible, but she isn't just manipulating me to hurt Tia. She genuinely hated how she was and just wants to live somewhere safe and happy and loved. 2. I get it wasn't enough, but the timeline was admittedly poorly written. We started discussing it last month. She knew this decision for a couple of weeks. While I now see it was misguided and cruel, it wasn't just a week. Thanks to everyone for their perspective. I didn't realize how naive I was being in thinking this would work out. I'm going to try to see if some friends can take Maya in for now, and maybe if she can get her own place. I'm going to try to be there for both of them and ask Tia to forgive me for being so short-sighted and stupid. I hope they can eventually work things out, but like people are saying, it might just be a stupid pipe dream. I think the best plan is to help Maya get a cheap flat or something nearby, and I'll help out where she needs it. Update. I posted this original story last year, trying to help my golden child sister Maya at the expense of my other sister, Tia. I didn't expect so many responses or the hate that I got, though I now realize how badly I messed up. While I still think how people wrote about Maya was unfair, how I treated Tia was cruel and ignorant. I was trying to help everyone and be practical, but I neglected to properly consider the emotional side. The responses were a wake-up call, and I realized I was just going to ruin everything. While it wasn't meant that way, it would just hurt Tia and ruin our relationship. I managed to convince some friends to let Maya stay with them and looked for a place. Currently, Tia still lives with me, while I found a cheap one-bedroom for Maya. It's been rough financially, but I managed to get everything my sisters need. A few sacrifices don't matter compared to them. Maya needed help adjusting and learning to be independent, so I did have to focus on her initially, and Tia absolutely hated me giving her any attention, so it was extremely difficult at first. But it got a lot better as Maya adjusted and grew more independent, and I could balance my time better. It's not perfect, but we've gotten into a rhythm the best we can. Maya has grown a lot and can mostly live by herself now, though I obviously still help. Therapy has really helped her, and she's made a lot of friends at university. While she still wants Tia's forgiveness, she's accepted it's not in her control and to focus on living her life and improving herself. I'm really happy she's free of our parents' influence. She's nothing like she used to be, though I do wish I had tried harder when she was younger rather than just giving up. Tia isn't completely happy. I don't think she'll ever forgive Maya. I've done my best to make it clear that I love her, and Maya isn't my favorite, but it's been hard. We get joint therapy and that helps a lot, but she still wishes it was just us. Still, she's finally able to understand that helping Maya isn't rejecting her. I'm so thankful and lucky Tia could forgive me. She means the world to me. I never intended to hurt her, though I clearly completely messed up in my approach. We basically just avoid the Maya situation and have managed to get back to normal. She's such a strong woman. I'm honestly so proud of her and so ashamed of how short-sighted I was. As selfish as it is, a part of me will always wish Tia could forgive her, but I know that's impossible and selfish. I don't think Tia will ever fully accept that Maya is a part of my life. The most I'll get is Tia and Maya being in one building for my wedding, but honestly, that's enough for me. While it's not a fairy tale ending, everything is going well. I'm glad I posted and was able to fix my horrible mistake. Don't listen to all the BS. Reddit loves a story with a bad guy they can hate on and a victim they can sympathize with. What you're doing and sacrificing for your sisters is beyond admirable. You're a good person, and the world needs more people like you. I hope you too can find your peace someday. The irony of the bulk of these posters here implying you're unempathetic for caring about both sisters while unilaterally considering Maya the devil in this situation is honestly outstanding. The situation isn't perfect and it sucks for all parties, but it's one that tries to find the best outcome for all. I don't understand the vitriol here, honestly. The posters here reek of selfishness and lack of empathy. I'm gonna be honest, you're still messing up. The fact that you want Tia to forgive Maya shows that you truly don't understand what she's gone through, and you're still placing your own selfish desires for the absence of tension over her need for justice and peace. This is so sad for Tia. I hope she heals and puts an incredible amount of distance between you two. Discuss with your therapist why you haven't accepted Tia's boundary and still want her to forgive Maya. Customer asked me to count out a bag of live crickets in front of her. I, 32 female, work part-time at a pet store to supplement my income as my salary of a full-time teacher doesn't always pay the bills. Plus I have a few pets, and 20% off of in-store purchases is rather helpful. Anyway, one of the things we supply are live and frozen feeder animals for things like reptiles, certain aquatic creatures, and invertebrates. These include things like mice, rats, dubia roaches, bloodworms, mealworms, waxworms, superworms, and crickets. The mice and rats are either frozen or live, but either way, they're easy to count and box up for the customer. Roaches, mealworms, waxworms, and superworms are pre-packaged and price-marked, but the crickets are not. Crickets are kept in these large containers with a mesh top, egg cartons for the crickets to climb on and hide in, cricket food, and hydration. This means when customers ask for crickets, which we usually sell by the dozen, we have to count and retrieve them manually while putting them in a plastic bag we then fill with air and tie off to go with the customer. Our method for transferring the crickets is to lightly tap on the egg cartons over a funnel-like object that doesn't have a hole at the bottom. We tap the crickets in, wrap the plastic bag around the end of the funnel, then tip it and lightly tap the crickets into the bag. Some crickets jump in out of order or cling to others, so often customers are given bonus crickets, which we're okay with. It's better than shorting them. So customers are always given the right amount or often more than what they asked for without an increase in price. Most people get this. The customer in this story did not. A woman comes in and she asks for 4 dozen crickets, 48 crickets total. I went to the back, tapped the crickets from the cartons inside the funnel, and then counted them into the bag. As per usual, the occasional extra cricket tumbled or hopped in, probably putting the total to a bit over 50 by the time I was done. I bagged them, tied the bag, took them over to the counter. Now, I don't know if this woman was having a bad day or if she had been stiffed by another store in the past, but she demanded that we count out the crickets in front of her before she pays for them. I explained that it was likely that she got more than what she had asked for, and counting out 48 crickets individually would take a little while. She insisted she wanted to be sure we weren't ripping her off. So I got one of those small plastic cricket keepers and a pair of tongs. I opened the bag, making it deflate and slightly more painful to work with, and inserted the tongs. Delicately, so not to crush the crickets, I grabbed each one with the tongs and started counting slowly, and dropped each individually counted cricket into the critter keeper. So after about 5 to 10 minutes at the counter meticulously counting crickets with tongs, and maybe deliberately taking a little bit longer than I had to out of spite, a line was building up behind the woman and I was getting close to the end of my count. Eventually, I hit the grand total of what she paid for, 48 crickets. And wouldn't you believe it, there were 10 more left over in the bag, almost a whole extra free dozen that she would have gotten for free had she not asked me to count them. I said, "Oh, would you look at that? My mistake. You were right. I did miscount. I'll put these other ones back and ring you up for the 48. I'll be right back." And before she could protest, I wandered off to dump the last 10 crickets back into the cricket container. When I came back to check her out, she was silent, not looking at me, did her best to ignore the irritated looks of the customers lining up behind her while I poured her 48 crickets back into the bag. She paid, then slunk off sheepishly out the door without a thank you or a glance. I then got through the rest of the line quickly and apologized to the customers in line for the wait. I sent them home with some free samples, thanked them for their patience, then continued along with my shift. She never complained, and she did return to the location several times after. She never asked anyone to count the crickets again. Update. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she needs to be accountable for her actions? My wife, 30 female, and I, 35 male, bought our house 5 years ago and it needs work, but time and money are always a constraint. Right now, my wife is not working while she goes back to school, and I'm working second shift as the sole earner. Since my wife is home more than me, she's been handling most of the work that's been done around the house, including dealing with contractors. She comes from a family of do-it-yourselfers who tend to shoot from the hip with projects, while I prefer to have a plan in place before we do any work. And the most recent projects that she spearheaded have been, in my opinion, subpar. Some examples. Our privacy fence gate doesn't close right, and she hasn't gotten the contractor to come to fix it for months. The internet line wasn't buried deeply enough by the contractors, and I think she should have sent them away when they didn't have the right equipment. She decided, without my input, to use a cleanser on our house before restaining it, and the cleanser left streaks in the wood that cannot be covered by the stain. We have a wooden sculpture in our yard that she did not clean, and it's dark and dirty, and it looks bad. She doesn't see anything wrong with it. Most recently, we had gutter work done, and I wanted a gutter put on the back of our new shed. She forgot to tell the contractor where I wanted the downspout, and he put it in the opposite corner, so now the water is just going to collect behind the shed, which is exactly what I wanted to avoid. She called me at work to give me this news, and I spent the rest of the day frustrated. When I got home, I asked what we were going to do about this, and she said something about fixing it ourselves. I told her that it would never be right if we fixed it ourselves, that I already paid for the work to be done right the first time, and we're just throwing away money and time with needing to redo all these projects that she hasn't been doing a good job with. I asked if she even cared about the quality of the work that's being done on the house, and said that maybe she shouldn't be involved with projects anymore on the house unless communication improves. She just sat in silence and slept on the couch without speaking to me. This morning, I asked if she was going to talk to me, and she said, "I don't know." I was exasperated and asked if she could just tell me what's wrong, and she replied, "I'm scared of you." She told me she wished I had approached the issue by looking for a solution, and I told her that she just doesn't want to be accountable for her actions. She said that she just wants us to be partners. I could be the jerk for how I went about telling her about my feelings, but I feel like there's no way for me to give her negative feedback without her freaking out. Am I the jerk for telling her that she needs to be accountable for her actions? Update. I posted this 5 months ago about an argument my wife and I had, and I was determined to be the jerk. Recently, someone commented on that post asking if my wife has left me yet, so I decided to update. A lot of people recognized that the way I spoke with my wife was full of frustration and anger, which was unproductive, but even more than that, it was scary to her. One user had an excellent comment pointing out that I was just blowing off steam and that my priority should be my partnership. We covered a lot of topics in the weeks following that incident. We had a couples therapy session to talk about strategies and communication. I saw one of my coworkers react in anger and frustration instead of taking the time to become calm, and realized from the outside looking in just how unproductive his behavior was. And then my wife showed me a section of one of our self-help books. It's called The 5 Personality Patterns, and my therapist had recommended it to me a while back. We had been reading it together, my wife and I, but then we got busy and we stopped. She picked it back up after our fight and read about the leaving pattern. She underlined a bunch of sections and read them to me, and I finally understood. I grew up in a house where my parents screamed and yelled at each other or picked fights in order to storm out of the house, and that's how I used to interpret my wife's silence, as a way to win the fight. In reality, when she became silent, she was scared. She was stonewalling me or trying to win the fight by manipulating me or trying to avoid taking responsibility. She told me that even though she knows that how I was acting wasn't objectively scary, that her threshold for shutting down is really low. My wife is the sweetest person. I love her so much, and I never wanted to feel like that. This changed my perspective completely. Ever since my realization, our relationship is better than ever. We laugh and tease each other playfully. We've worked on projects together. We've talked about chores and money. We've even had a couple of fights and resolved them quickly and lovingly. Our communication is better because we trust each other. My wife told me that she's never felt safer or more loved than now. I won't say I'm glad the fight happened, but what I realized because of it has been a turning point in our marriage for the better. I want to recognize OP for being the kind of person who can actively look at themselves, hear criticism, understand what they did wrong, apologize, and then change that behavior. Not every partner would be that committed to their spouse. Not everyone would be that respectful to their spouse. It sounds like you two are finding new adventures and joys in life together. Your combined communication skills are to be applauded. Have a fantastic life. Work during my planned vacation? Have fun paying me extra when I leave. I had been working at this company for about 3 years. I had consistently grown in my role and eventually was given a major project to own. Although it required a quick turnaround, I determined I could do it myself and took it on solo, hoping for a promotion. I was able to deliver the project slightly ahead of schedule and with better quality than expected, which allowed us to make a huge sale. The head of the company gave me an award at an all-hands meeting, and my boss let me know I was on track for an end-of-year promotion with a nice pay raise and more responsibilities. However, I was needed in another part of the business, so I had to transfer under a new manager who was notoriously hard to work with. During our first meeting, I brought up that I had a 3-week planned vacation in 4 months. I had never taken vacation before this, so I had 6 weeks saved up and I did not want to start losing it. He told me, of course, that would be fine, and we would be able to make it work. About a week later, we had our first meeting with our product team. They had a new, large project idea and wanted it to be released in just 3 months. As my team looked over the details, we knew this was a 6 to 8 month project at best, and it would be better to deliver it in smaller increments or push out the schedule. My boss was adamantly against both, so throughout the next week, he made us have last-minute 3 to 4 hour brainstorming sessions every day, but he would not even tell us until around 3 p.m., forcing all of us to work late every day that week. At the end of the week, there was no way we could figure out how to deliver everything on the shorter timeline, so my boss asked me to stay behind after the meeting. For another hour, he railed against me, saying I was failing at this project and that he could not see me getting a good annual review in 4 months, and that a promotion wasn't even on the table. This annual review would also include the project I had just received an award for, and it's supposed to encompass 12 months of work, but he was basing this off the first 2 weeks in this new team. At this point, I knew he was ready to use me as a scapegoat for his bad management and started applying elsewhere. We continued working on the project, and sure enough, at the end of 3 months, we were still far from being able to deliver, and my boss was getting heat from up above. Right around this time, I received an offer from another company that would be the promotion I wanted, along with an even larger pay increase. I accepted the offer and negotiated my start date to be after my vacation, which was now only 3 weeks away. That same day, my boss called me into his office and told me, "We need to talk about this vacation." I reminded him that we had talked about it months before and that everything was booked. Flights, hotels, etc. He would not let up and told me there was no way I could take 3 weeks off with how behind schedule we were. He told me I could go on my trip, but I could not take vacation, and I would be expected to be online during our business hours throughout the trip, 4 a.m. to 1 p.m. local time in my vacation spot. Cue malicious compliance. Every morning while on vacation, I would log on at 4 a.m., check emails, answer questions on our internal chat, and do the minimum work expected, logging off as soon as it hit 1 p.m., all without burning any vacation. With only 1 week left on my vacation, I requested a conference call with my boss to give him my 2 weeks' notice. He was shocked and attempted to persuade me to stay and complete the project, even bringing up the possibility of a promotion. However, I informed him that I had already accepted a new job offer that was starting soon. I worked my last 2 weeks before moving on to my new job. As my boss had requested that I not take any vacation time, the company had to pay out all of my accrued vacation time, a little less than 7 weeks at that point, including the 3 weeks I had initially planned to take. After I left, the project became short-staffed, and I heard from my former coworkers that it missed 2 more adjusted deadlines. Eventually, the manager was demoted and later let go from the company. Approximately 6 months later, the head of my previous company invited me to lunch and offered me a position taking over my former boss's role. I negotiated an even higher pay increase as well as company equity and returned to the company for 3 more years. Am I the jerk for choosing my senior cat over my sister and potentially allowing her to become homeless? I will preface this by saying that my mother treated my sister and I differently. I was always less than, while she could do no wrong. She'd always buy my sister everything she wanted, while I wore her hand-me-downs. I moved out at 18, worked through college, went no contact with mom and low contact with sister, and our paths diverged greatly from there. I now work in a field that pays well, while she's a stay-at-home mom. I guess I never quite got over this, and while I know the main jerk is my mother, and my sister didn't really know any better, I still fester negative feelings towards both of them. I found Tom in a bag as a newborn kitten, and I raised him over summer break when I was 13. Then, when school started, my mother got rid of him, and I had to go through great and extreme lengths to find out where she had dumped him. It took me a week to find him, and we've been together ever since. For a few months, Tom hasn't really been okay and has been slowly declining. The vet, however, based on the recent blood panel that we did, was confident he still has some time left to live and said that he's by far the healthiest geriatric cat she's seen in a while. Thus, we decided to try out surgery to improve his quality of life, even though he's 21. This surgery comes with a price tag. I'm not in the US, but it's around 3 months' worth of minimum wage in my country. It won't set us back much, hardly an inconvenience, but we'll be frugal just in case complications happen. He's scheduled for Monday, fingers crossed. Anyway, my sister dropped by on Sunday, which was strange. We haven't spoken since she wished me a Merry Christmas on Facebook. Looks like her husband jumped onto the NFT bandwagon, and now they're kind of broke and a few months behind on mortgage payments, and asked if I could help her out with the payments since they're at risk of becoming homeless. I said I'm sorry she's going through this, but this is not a good time for me either, and I listed the reasons above. I don't want to ever be in a situation where my cat's life depends on $100 that I cannot afford to pay. I suggested she get a job and maybe downsize or move in with mom while they get back on their feet. She did not take this well, called me names and a crazy cat lady that's going to end up alone, plus some other not nice words. I kicked her out. My mother and other relatives have been spamming me through the week for being heartless and caring more about an animal than my own flesh and blood. My husband says I could have just given her some cash to avoid the drama, and he's right. I could have. This is why I feel like I might be the jerk. In the end, the main reason I chose not to help her is due to my childhood baggage. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Have you asked the family that's been spamming you how much they are financially contributing towards your sister? Hope the surgery goes well and wish a speedy recovery for Tom. Not the jerk. But next time, just tell her no. She doesn't need to know your reasons. And respond to all the relatives. Thank you so much for letting me know that I made the wrong choice. I will let my sister know that you'll be catching her up on her bills. Between you and X, Y, and Z, she should be able to remain in her home and not get a job while also staying in her house. I suggest you all get in contact with each other to figure out what you can each contribute. You truly are amazing people. I would send the same message with names changed to every one of them. And then I'd create a chat you can jump out of, including your sister, and say, X, Y, and Z have graciously agreed to pay your bills. These people are truly amazing. I'll just get off of this chat and let you guys handle it from here. Then leave and block them all. My girlfriend is furious that I gave money to my mother instead of paying for her college debt. I'm 26, male, and my mom, who's 54, has always been insecure about her body. My mom isn't ugly by any means. She's beautiful in my eyes. But my mom recently had told me that she was considering plastic surgery for a long time, but couldn't because she had to prioritize her money on raising me. She didn't ask me for money or anything. I asked her if she was sure about it. She said she was. So I got a full-ride scholarship to college, and I'm pretty financially stable myself, so I thought it would be nice if I paid for it. My mom said it wasn't necessary, but I insisted because I wanted to do something nice for her. My mom got implants and a facelift, and I paid for it fully. She said she was really grateful and thanked me. Honestly, I was really happy for her because it gave her self-esteem a boost that she needed. She was very happy as well, and everything was fine. But when my girlfriend got to know about this, she was upset. She told me I should have let her know before I decided to do anything. She told me she couldn't believe I wasted my money on something like that. She said it was unfair and that I could have used it to help her pay off her college debt, which would have been more useful. I tried to explain it to her, but she didn't listen and called my mom fake and told me she needs to get over her insecurities. Most of my friends also took my girlfriend's side on this one and said that helping my girlfriend pay off her college debt is a lot more important than my mom's plastic surgery and are calling me a jerk. I'm not sure if I did something wrong here. I don't see what was wrong with paying for my mom's plastic surgery. It helped her get over her insecurities, and I'm really happy about it because she's feeling better now. So my question is, am I the jerk for this? Thanks. Edit. For answers to some common questions, my girlfriend and I have been together for over a year now, and we decided to move in together a few months ago. Also, I don't share a joint account with my girlfriend or anything, but she thinks I should have helped her pay off her college debt because I am financially doing better than she is. Not the jerk. Unless you're married and this was money from a joint bank account, your girlfriend has absolutely no claim to it. You can use it to help your mom, and you don't owe your girlfriend any explanation and certainly not consultation. ETA. And your girlfriend expecting you to pay her student loan is a major red flag. Your mom probably paid a bunch while raising you. Your girlfriend expects to collect and have you pay her loans just because she's pretty? Major red flags. Everyone sucks here. Financial details are vague. I'd like to assume you're so well off at 26 that this doesn't affect you financially at all, but I doubt it. Considering your financial vagueness, if you're in what you would consider a serious relationship, you discuss big financial moves before making them. It wasn't your girlfriend's main talking point, but you can't trust a partner that makes rash decisions with money if you're planning goals together for the future. Your girlfriend is entitled to say that your money could have gone towards her loans. She took out the loans. You've been together a year. You're not married. Even once you are married, that doesn't mean all your savings go towards her debt. You are not obligated to that, and I would have a sit-down discussion about how she plans on handling her loans down the line. She's right that your mom is insecure though. It's a waste of money for temporary shallow happiness. In a few years, she'll cower against that insecurity yet again until she faces it and undoes the years of beauty product brainwashing. You're the jerk. Those surgeries you mentioned are expensive, like really expensive, and you and your girlfriend live together. Sure, you each have your own separate accounts, but are you planning on getting a nice place with her, starting a family one day, etc.? If you are, then money becomes more of a joint thing. Maybe she's just upset because she feels like you're jeopardizing your future together for your mom's surgery. If you do stay with this girl, I'd say get married, but I know not everyone believes in marriage. Then you have to recognize that partners should be a team, and you should consult your significant other before spending $20,000 to $30,000. I'd be upset too.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.